Alright, good evening. My name is Razak Salah. This short video is to explain the three-stage dividend discount model, and for the purposes of explanation, I would be using an example from the curriculum. Elaine Boover, let me just call him EB for short, is evaluating a particular company for possible inclusion in a small cap growth oriented portfolio. This particular company is headquartered in Alabama and is a diversified energy company involved in oil and gas exploration through its subsidiary. In light of the company's aggressive program of purchasing oil and gas producing properties, the analyst EB expects above average growth rates for the next 5 years. And of course, the analyst establishes the following facts and figures as of the beginning of August 2013. The current price of this particular company stock is $56.18, and the current dividend payments, which would represent as D naught, is $0.56. Then the analyst Boover forecast an initial 5-year period with 11% per year earnings and dividend growth. So it is expected that for the next 5 years, this company's dividend payments would grow at 11% per annum. Now, what you would see on the screen is an attempt to sketch what the growth patterns of this company would look like for the foreseeable future. So in the next 5 years, growth rate is estimated at 11%. And of course, subsequently, the analysts anticipate that the company's earnings and dividend growth will grow at 6.5% per year when the company attains maturity. And we are told that it will take the next 10 years, that's after our forecasted dividend in year 5, it will take another 10 years for this company to transit to becoming a mature company. So within this period, we can assume that the dividend growth rate would slow down progressively until we attain stable growth rate at 6.5%. So because we are anticipating that this will take the next 10 years, so that's why in my timeline between year 5 and year 15, you would have the dividend growth rate slowing down. And of course, subsequently from year 15, we're expecting dividend to stabilize at 6.5% per year. So how is this a three-stage model, and how can we solve this particular question? So stage 1, the first 5 years during which we expect dividend growth to be stable at 11%. Stage 2 is the 10-year period between which we expect dividend growth to slow from 11% to 6.5%. And then stage 3 is the period beyond year 15 when dividend is expected to grow at 6.5% per annum. So I like to show my stuff on timelines, and I would like to represent what the dividend cash flows would be. So if at time 0 dividend payments is 0.56, given our expectation of dividend growth rate of 11% per annum, we could infer that dividend as at time period 1 will be 0.56 times 1.11 to account for the dividend growth rates. Similarly, dividend for time periods 2, 3, 4 and 5 can be calculated, and of course we can come up with what those numbers would look like. And then beyond year 5, we now need to estimate what the value of the company is implied by stage 2 and stage 3. And of course, to be able to do that, we would look no further than our H model. Remember, the assumption under the H model is that we are starting at a high dividend growth rate, and then the dividend growth is expected to slow down linearly from the short-term growth rates until we stabilize at the long-term growth rates. which in this case is 11% short-term growth rates, and long-term growth rates is expected to be 6.5%. All right, so H model will account for stage 2 and 3. So as at year 5, we'll be calculating what the value of this company is. That's the terminal value that is implied by stage 2 and stage 3. To do that, we'll rely on our formula for H model, which essentially is, dividend as at year 5 in this case, multiplied by H, which is the half-life period. H in this our example would be half the duration it would take for the growth to stabilize at 6.5%, which in this case is half of 10, 5 years, right? So it will be D5 times H times GS minus GL, where GS is the short-term growth rate and GL is the long-term growth rate, right? Of course, we would add to this our D5 times 1 plus GL, and of course all of this divided by our cost of equity, R minus GL. Now in the question we're given the variables that we would use to calculate what our cost of equity is, right? And based on the question, we are told that to estimate the required return on equity using the CAPM, Bovia uses an adjusted beta of 1.2, right? So adjusted beta is 1.2, and this is calculated using 2 years of weekly observations. We're also given our ERP as 4.2%, and our risk-free was given as 3%. So using all of these variables, we're able to estimate what our R is, which is RF plus beta times ERP. If you do that calculation, you would arrive at an estimate for required rate of return of 8%. So using all of these numbers, we're able to estimate what our V5 would be, which is our terminal value. Again, do not forget I said the terminal value under the assumption of H model caters to stage 2 and stage 3, right? So once we are done estimating that value, if you do your calculation, you should arrive at 81.1524 as the terminal value. So the numbers that you should arrive at for D1 all the way to D5 should be as follows. D1, you should have 0.6216. D2, you should have 0.69 approximately. D3, you should have 0.7659. D4, 0.8501, and then D5 should be 0.9436. So again, I'm a fan of using number lines, and I would like to show all of these cash flows on my number line. Again, I assume that we all know how to use our calculators, and the inputs that we would have to put into our calculators would be CFO, cash flow as at time 0 is obviously 0. CF1 would correspond to our D1, CF2 would be D2, CF3, D3, D4 is CF4. D5 would be the combination of the dividend payments in year 5. Sorry, CF5 would be the combination of the dividend payments in year 5, which is 0.9436, plus the terminal value that we had calculated as 81.1524. Again, do not forget this terminal value covers stage 2 and stage 3. So once you're done with this, input all of these variables into your calculator, and you should come up with a valuation for this particular company stock of 58.2731. I hope you found this explanation useful and clear. If you have further questions, please kindly let me know. Until then, see you and bye.